Good evening, everyone. Could I ask everyone to please take their seats and then go ahead and put your phones or electronic devices on silent for us. We'd appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's great to see everyone out this evening, and welcome to the Armenian Studies Program lecture series. Our lecture series has been going on for close to 45 years here at Fresno State, and over the years we've sponsored more than 900 different events. That includes lectures, concerts, banquets, dinners, visits by high-ranking clergy, politicians. So it's always a pleasure to share Armenian studies and things about Armenia with our community. I want to just first of all announce a few upcoming events. As we all know that this week is the commemorative week for April 24th, Armenian Genocide Week. Today is Wednesday. On Friday, there's two events taking place. One in the morning, which is the Armenian Genocide Commemoration and Annual Flag Raising, which will take place beginning at 10:30 a.m. at the Fresno City Hall flagpole. Master of Ceremonies is Karni Kazarian, Fowler City Council member, and the keynote speaker is Hovannisian, who's here with us tonight. Ani. Please also join us that same evening if you'd like to. We're watching a movie this week called The Desire to Live. It's a movie about Karabakh. It's one of the most moving movies that I've seen about the Karabakh War. It's not a movie about the war where you see things blowing up and that kind of thing. It's a series of interviews with the people of Karabakh themselves and their will to live, their desire to live in peace and to live in Karabakh. The movie was made by Hovannisian. So we are streaming it this week up until Friday. You can watch it for free on Vimeo. And then at 5:30 p.m. we're doing a Zoom interview with Hovannisian. She's living in Europe, and she'll be doing an interview with us, discussion about the film. So if you watch the film, you can come on Zoom with us and take a look at it. This is part of the Cineculture group on campus. Cineculture sponsors, many of you have been to our Cineculture events before. They sponsor events, movies every Friday night, but every year we do at least 2 Armenian movies. So they've been working with Armenian Studies to be able to do that. And then on Sunday is the community event, which will take place at Fresno State here on the monument. 4 o'clock, people are invited to start to come to the monument and lay flowers. At 5 o'clock, there will be an event, the organized part of the event, which will include a clergy remembrance for the genocide, and then a very short program featuring Fresno State President Dr. Saul Jimenez Sandoval, who will give the keynote speech for the evening. So we invite you all to attend all of those evenings. So tonight it's my great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Richard Hovannisian. Probably familiar to most of you, either through bloodlines or through friendships from many years. For me personally, it's a very special honor to have him here, as he was one of my professors when I went to UCLA almost 40 years ago. So someone that I've taken many classes with, and it's very close to me because of his interest, obviously, as one of the pioneers in the field of Armenian studies. You may not know it, but Armenian studies really started as a field formally in the United States probably in 1959, 1960 with the establishment of chairs in Armenian studies. And Dr. Hovannisian was already teaching and went to UCLA, and the rest of the history is there. He is Emeritus Professor of Armenian and Near Eastern History at UCLA. He served as the Associate Director of the von Grunenbaum Center for Near Eastern Studies from 1978 to 1995. He is a native of Tulare, California. He earned his BA and MA from the University of California, Berkeley, and his PhD in 1966 from UCLA. And he was appointed as the very first holder of the Armenian Educational Foundation Endowed Chair in Modern Armenian History at UCLA. He is the author of multiple volumes, as I think many of you know, but his foremost field of interest has been twofold, in my opinion. The First Republic of Armenia, in which he's written a really 5-part history of the Republic of Armenia, and then also in the field of genocide studies, where he has edited and participated and put together a series of books on the Armenian genocide. Tonight, the topic is going to be Armenian communities of Persia and Iran. This is the product of the 15 conferences that he had organized over the years at UCLA, where each of the different regions of historic Armenia, the provinces and areas of Armenia, were highlighted at conferences. I think many of you have been to those conferences. I think I've attended probably 13 of the 15. And this book tonight, Armenian Communities of Persia and Iran, is published by Mazda Publishers, which has an Armenian series. And so I'm not going to say more about it because that's what Dr. Hovannisian is going to talk about. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to you tonight, Dr. Richard Hovannisian. Dr. Hovannisian.
Thank you, Barlow, very much, and thank you for being here. I'm surprised that you are here, not because the subject is not interesting, but it's so distant from Fresno and Fresno Armenians, because we, most of us at least, came from a different world. Our grandparents and parents came from the Turkish Empire, and so when I grew up, you know, the names Van and Bitlis, Harpert, Sepasya, Erzurum, Adapazarı, Bolis, all these names are familiar names. And you may remember, we used to even go to Sunday picnics that were organized by these various compatriotic societies, the Hovannisians and the Mushitsis and Bitlisis. And so that was sort of our world. And we didn't think much outside that box. Even though there was an Armenian world outside where our parents and grandparents came from, it's something we didn't know anything or very, very little about. So I'm glad you're here, even though I doubt that very few of you have Persian Armenian connections or origins. The first slide.
Yeah, sorry.
This is so. This is the volume that I'm presenting tonight, and a volume I thought I was not going to do because it was my last couple of conferences I organized at UCLA on the anniversary of the 400th anniversary of a major Armenian town in Iran known as New Julfa, which was noted for its world trade network and very wealthy Armenian merchants. And so I did two conferences way back in 2004 and 2005 on this community of New Julfa and the Armenians of Iran. But that was not going to be intended to be published. I was going to focus on the 14th volumes that I've done on the Turkish Armenian. Next. So this talk tonight is dedicated to my dear Vartiter, who was my companion for more than 65 years, not only as a partner, but as an academic partner, because for more than 65 years we traveled the world together and went through all the archives in Russian, in German, in French, in many other languages and places. And so whatever I have produced in my lifetime, she has been an integral part of, not only as a proofreader, but also as a creator for me. And I want to remember her tonight. Next. The first reel, as Barlow Dermovician pointed out, my real interest for the first 30 years of my life, academic life, was to try to take the Republic of Armenia, which had existed for less than 3 years after World War I, in an attempt of the Armenians to recreate an independent Armenian state, having lost their independence centuries before. And it was a heroic struggle to try to create something out of nothing. There was nothing there. There had been a genocide. The country's population was made up of refugees. Well, we know that that republic didn't last. Part of its territories became Soviet Armenia, and part of those territories became a part of Turkey. But what was surprising for me as a child growing up in Tulare was that we had only a dozen Armenian families. And of those dozen, many of them were related. They all came from the same village of Hovannisian in Kharpert. And they're related, but half of them wouldn't speak to the other half of them. And we, 12 families. And the reason was there was so much passion about this republic, whether you regarded it as like, God sent manna, or else something was terrible because so many thousands of people died, and the Soviet Russia came to the rescue. And we were just, neither side was correct. Neither side was wrong. But, and it took us until after World War II to begin to visit one another once again. Even though these are brothers, I remember the two Khazarian brothers in Tulare, and their farms were next to each other. And they went through that crisis of one belonging to one political party and the other to the other. And so when I go here, and that's why it took me 30 years, was to try to look at this objectively and to show what were the challenges that were there, what were the accomplishments, what were the shortcomings, and to put it into a historical perspective and taking it out of simply one of emotion. And this is a 3-year history of Armenia, but it took us 30 years to write because, as I said, Martyr and I were in archives around the world for many years. And it's just amazing, by the way, of how much material there is on Armenia and Armenians in foreign archives, in the British archives, in the French archives, in the American archives, in the Soviet or the Russian archives. Just enormous amounts. So this was what I thought was going to be the end of my life career, because I spent 30 years working on it. Next. And then I was backed into this subject. I've always stated that I'm not a genocide scholar. I don't want to be a genocide scholar. And yet I was backed into publishing several volumes on the Armenian genocide, its remembrance, and its denial. Because I was being told that my father was a liar. I was being told that his family didn't all perish. I was being told that no, he wasn't carried away by Kurdish tribesmen, and that he escaped miraculously. This was all make-up, make-believe. And that denial that is going on to the present time forced me to go into the subject, and primarily through organizing international conferences on the Armenian genocide, and then publishing the proceedings. One very exciting one was when George Deukmejian was governor, and we were able to hold a conference on the Armenian genocide in Sacramento, in the capital, and in Sacramento State University, and this was the result. Next. And finally, in my old age, I began to organize, as Professor De Margaritian pointed out, a series of conferences on places from where we in Fresno and the San Joaquin Valley had come. You know, we had come from Van, and we had come from Bitlis and Daron, or Mush. We'd come from Harpert and Erzurum, or Karin, and Sebastian, Dekranagerd, and Cilicia, which includes many places like Adana, Aintab, Marash, Sis, and onward and onward. On the Black Sea coast of Pontus, where in this chapter, Barter wrote a chapter in this volume, a chapter on her mother's experience, who was a native of this coastal area on the Black Sea, which was very progressive. I mean, when you see what Armenian women wore in the 1880s, 1890s, with their jewelry and fine clothing, it's